Welcome back to another episode of Dentistry's Growing with Grace podcast. Join Grace and her guest of the week as they discuss lessons learned in the industry and explore unique insights into ethical growth. Hi friends, welcome back to Dentistry's Growing with Grace. I'm very excited. I've got one of my favorite dentist friends and clients with me today, Dr. Delaney Spaulding. I always just say Delaney because I don't know, we just connect like that, but thank you for being with me today.
No, thank you for having me.
If you don't know Dr. Spaulding, you should. You should follow her on social media. She is such an inspiration to me, and I'm sure to other business owners. Delaney, I've always been impressed by your business-minded nature and how smart you are with what you do. And for someone who takes a lot of pride in my business savviness and my marketing knowledge, it's really what I do. You've put some stuff out there that's had me laughing out loud, that's had me sharing it with other dentists and telling them, hey, follow this doctor. She will inspire you to do new things and to push outside of your comfort zone. So I'm just really excited to have you on the podcast today. And tell us a little bit about you and tell our audience a little bit about what you'll be sharing with them today.
Yeah, I very much come from a dental family. So I am my own person, but I come with a legacy that reaches far beyond where I'm at. So my mom graduated dental school, I think in 91, 92. And I was born in 93. I am just about to be 30 years old. Her water broke during her boards exam, and I was brought into the world into dentistry. They started a fee-for-service dental practice a few months later, and eventually my dad got involved and somewhat spun off and did Lighthouse 360. So he's one of the beginners and creators of that. And I went to work every day with my mom as a kid until I was in elementary and middle school. And then eventually I started working along chairside with her when I was about 15. And then from there, I realized I wanted to be a dentist and continue the dental family. But I knew I wanted to get far, far away from everything I grew up with. So I went to Boston just for life experience. And now I practice in Hoover, Alabama. I moved back to the South. I'm originally from Georgia. And ever since being back here, I have had jobs at a DSO. I have worked at a private practice as an associate. And I was only out of school for about 2 years when I decided to buy a practice and drop all the insurance they were in network with and go completely fee for service.
Wow. It's pretty bold.
Yeah, ill-advised, but bold.
Yeah. I started my marketing agency when I was 24 and I was 2 years out of school. And I think my family thought that there was a screw loose or something. Maybe they were thinking my prefrontal cortex wasn't fully developed yet when I started my business, but it's worked for me. I think getting an early start allows you to learn quicker and to learn through your own experiences, which I think is phenomenal. But then taking over a practice, buying a practice, and then going fee for service, that's huge. What kind of led you to making that decision?
I made the decision before I understood the decision. So coming from and working in an office where when you are trained up as an assistant and as a young teenager, understanding how to answer the phones and communicate with patients and explaining, no, we're not on your insurance list, but yes, you can still be a patient here. Hearing that echoing in my mind the entire time I was going through dental school led me to think like, this is normal. This is like the only way that you can function. And then outside of that has a lot of limitations. And I didn't realize what limitations those were until I worked at a DSO and just realized what type of situation that is. And then I worked at a private practice that was trying to be out of network, but they were in network, but writing a lot of things off and just understanding, wow, how much insurance does take a cut of everything to no benefit of the patient. So when I bought my practice and I realized that the person I was purchasing it from, how much they were writing off and the detriment it was doing to the business and to the patients, that's when I realized something has to change. And this is just an easy thing. I just won't go in network. I'll just drop all the networks that are in network with, and then we'll just move forward. And that made sense to me. But what happened over the next year, no one could have prepared me for. That was more traumatic than bringing home a newborn. It was a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of crying, lots of crying. But ultimately, the office is financially doing amazing now, and we got through it. It made me a tougher dentist and a tougher person about how, like, having to have hard conversations with patients and having to deal with the ridicule, especially from a marketing mindset, the social media impact of people being upset about your choice about their insurance and blasting it everywhere.
Yeah. And being able to keep moving forward despite that, because what happens when you're seeing all this, you purchase this practice, you've got a lot invested in the success of this practice, your livelihood, and then you make this decision, which I think it was the right one for you in hindsight. You make this really big decision. And then you have fear enter the picture is really what happens, because you're used to having a great reputation. Everybody loves you. You love dentistry, you connect with them. And now all of a sudden you're messing with their pocketbook. And that's the quickest way to get a negative reaction out of a patient, is for them to have some sort of misunderstanding related to money. And let's face it, most people do not really understand that dental insurance is not insurance. It's a coupon. It's a discount that you're paying for. And when you do
Costco membership,
it is, yes. And when you do the math, it doesn't make sense for the employer, for the employee. I don't offer dental insurance to my employees, and I explain to them why. And yeah, so talk me through that. What was that like? What was that immediate reaction like? And how did it feel as you were going through it?
Well, I will say, whenever I'm reading posts on dental Facebook groups about people contemplating the idea of going out of network, in a way, I can't relate to a lot of their situations, because I bought my practice in June of 2020, and that is when I dropped it. I didn't know a single patient. They didn't know me. So I was the new person coming in, which ultimately has that certain level of attrition, but also I was making this decision that was negatively affecting them. Where I know a lot of people are more in the situation when they have their practice, it's been existing, they've been in network, they know these patients, they don't want to lose these patients, they're friends with them. So the concept of making a decision to drop insurance feels so much more emotional and close to home, because you can put a face and you can picture that exact person that's walking out your door and has a negative opinion of you. So in a way, to go against what any broker would ever tell you about change nothing for the first 6 months to a year, well, I changed everything, and it made sense for me for that reason. I didn't know these patients, so me making a huge change when I knew no matter what, I was going to be the owner of this practice, and I had to live with all of the decisions I made every single day, regardless of who my patients were. That's why it made more sense for me to make the office make sense for me, instead of what would make sense for all of these patients I don't know yet. So going through it, when we officially made the decision, we had like 6 months of letting people know, look, we are going to be out of network. We're going to go ahead and file your claim for this first 6 month period. You're not going to experience any difference, because we're trying to figure out exactly what that means for us. We're going to figure out what your out of pocket is going to be. We're going to see what your copay would be. But for this first 6 months, we want you to get to know us, get to know the office. Next time you come in, we'll give you a very accurate representation of what your payment is going to be. That resulted in writing off between $40,000 to $60,000 in 6 months, because that's what you are writing off when you're accepting in-network fees, but you're choosing to be in the mindset of, we're choosing to be out of network, but we're going to do this as an experimental to figure out and not screw patients over and let them get to know us. So then when that next time came around, I didn't see it as a bad thing. I saw it as a good thing. I'm seeing this 40, 60,000 that we wrote off 6 months ago, or throughout the course of 6 months. And that is now money we will not be writing off, but we will be losing some of those patients. You just have to do the math to figure out how many patients you're losing and how much you are writing off. And at the end of the day, if it's not an emotional decision, it's a mathematical decision, you'll be fine.
I love what you just said, in that you said you just have to do the math. I just want any dentist listening right now, I want that statement to live in your head when you're feeling emotional about anything related to your business, related to investments, related to marketing messages, related to dropping participation in insurance. All these situations are so triggering that we stop using our rational brain and we don't do the math. And if we were able to turn off our emotions and do the math and test it and then tweak it and then keep running our business without emotions in the forefront, without fear in the forefront, without all of that, we would move forward a lot quicker. And it's so brilliant to anyone who's in business. Anyone who's in business knows exactly what you're talking about and can put themselves in that situation. I want to shift gears a little on this conversation and bring a different perspective to things, because there are people out there that are thinking, well, in my market, I could never go out of network. I could never be successful. It's not even an option for me. I'm going to continue working 60 hours a week and running my health, my mental health, and my physical health into the ground, trying to keep up with everything, because I don't think this is realistic in my market. And I want to shed some light on what I see happening in the dental profession over the next 10 years. People can agree or disagree with me. Put it in the comments, because that'll get me more exposure. So like it, don't like it, comments, I don't care. But what I see happening is this acceleration of conglomeration in the dental space. We've got DSOs selling to bigger DSOs, selling to bigger DSOs so fast I can't even keep up with it. It's like the game right now is this transition. It's just hot. It's a hot market in dentistry. And there's two ways to play the dental business game. You're either going to play volume, or you're going to play quality and attention to patients and detail. And the general public may not know it yet, but they will. They will see the difference, and they will look for the doctor that explains things. They will look for the doctor that has soft skills. They will look for the doctor that cares. And I'm not saying that the associate doctor at the DSO, I'm not saying that they don't care. They might care a lot, but if they don't have time to communicate that they care, then that is lost on the patient. And so what I see is this divide happening. You're going to have quantity and you're going to have quality focused practices. And there's not going to be a whole lot in between. Right now, there is that middle space where you can participate with some, or maybe you're a network with all, and you haven't built to the point where you're in such high demand that you're kind of like the DSO. So there still is a middle space between the two extremes, but with the acceleration of the conglomeration, like I talk about, I think you're going to see people having to pick a side. And I think you're going to see an increase. It's going to be harder to survive as fee for service, but it's going to be worth it to survive as fee for service. And there are always patients in any field of medicine or healthcare, looking for quality, looking for attention, and looking for the best. And so there are people either looking for the cheapest, and they're over here, they're in that quantity bucket, and there are patients that are looking for the best, and you get to choose, where do you want to be? And I don't know, what do you think, Dr. Spaulding? Do you agree with any of that perspective?
I think that is completely correct. I will never compete and win on price. I won't even compete on price. That's not where I'm competing. I have no interest in being the cheapest. And there's patients that are always going to respect that and want that. It's not that they are looking to be spending more money, but the patients who have been burned by going to places to get the absolute cheapest quality work possible are now coming into our office saying, look what I did, or I didn't like my experience, or even that first one was rough with me, which every dentist is different, but how the patient perceives from every second they walk in the door until they walk out that door again is an experience. And if you're competing on how quickly you can compete people in quantity and keeping it as cheap as possible, you can have the best of intentions, but you are setting everything up in a system to give patients a lesser quality experience. It's not bad dentistry per se, but they are not going to have the same type of experience that they're going to have if you have low volume. You can spend time with them, you can provide services or just experiences that are going to be different. You can have a full hour to talk to your patient if you need to. This morning, I did a complimentary consultation for about an hour with a patient who walked in tears because she's super phobic. I charged her nothing for it. I saw it as, I'm sorry that the dental world has gotten you to the point that this is how you feel when you walk in here. I got to know her as a person. Walking out, we have a full treatment plan. She is starting next week. It is plenty of production that I'm getting the full, complete collectible amount from, because it's completely fee for service. And I was able to do that because I had an hour in my schedule with no one disturbing me in order to build that up. So it's just different.
That's your most profitable hour.
Yep.
I just want to say, you know what, to every dentist out there that's going, I only want to be doing clinical dentistry. I want to walk in and only do clinical dentistry. That's fine if you have maybe replaced yourself in that consultation, relationship building capacity, that might work for you. But for most, having that time to really connect and bond and build trust is going to mean that patient is there for years to come, and that they are more comfortable communicating when they are uncomfortable. And that's what allows you to maintain that relationship. And I wish people didn't rush that first meeting, that first interaction.
Even for new patients, I feel like so many, especially fee for service people, snub the idea of a free toothache visit or a free consultation. They're like, no, my time is worth something. It's like, it is, but if you can be there for free to help someone when they're experiencing a really tricky issue, you're not giving them a free service. They're technically not paying, but they're walking in the door. You're using your services that are available and at hand and the knowledge you have in order to give them a treatment plan, potentially get a patient for life. And as long as it is not just a string of people coming in just wanting drugs, which I haven't noticed that. It's typically a 19-year-old who moved to the area who has pericoronitis and it flared up and they don't have a dentist and they have no money because they're 19. And then they come in and I am now their new dentist because I had the availability and the ability to offer them something someone else couldn't.
Yep.
Which seems counterintuitive to say I'm not competing on price, but I'll give away free stuff. But I can give away free stuff because it builds into a very lucrative practice when you have people who really depend on you and like you.
Yep. And you have the ability to give away free stuff because you don't have to answer to the insurance companies. So you get the ability to pick and choose how you want to set your fees and how you want that relationship to go. And this is, what we're talking about here in the business world is called a loss leader. It's when you provide something and you get more from providing that thing. Even though you don't make a profit on that thing, more follows. And so many people are so worried about their marketing messages positioning them as cheap that they will never give away a single thing. And if you just do the math, like you said earlier, to quote you from this podcast, if you just do the math, you will see that it makes sense over and over again. There's a reason you can go and pick up a printer for next to nothing. Costs more money to build the printer than what they sell it for, because you're going to buy ink for that printer. You're not going to just buy a new printer every time you need ink. And so they know if they lose money on the sale of the printer, they're going to make the money back on the ink. And that's how people need to start looking at their business. I'm not even going to say dentistry. I'm just going to say their business. And so in kind of pivoting this conversation and talking about going fee for service, it's been my experience as a marketer that you need strong marketing. You need appropriate marketing. You are no longer relying on insurance participation to bring in patients. You need strong verbal skills and you need really great marketing. And I've been fortunate enough to work with you in your building your brand and your website and your digital footprint. Can you talk to us a little bit about how critical the marketing is when you are considering going fee for service?
Yeah, so the only reason that I found your amazing company is because that was in the forefront of my mind as things were transitioning. It was the early 2022. I was like, all right, things have settled down. Things are going fine. I need to be better. And the first thing that I needed to be better was to learn how to market myself in a way that I pictured how I wanted to be. I knew I wanted to redecorate the office. I knew I wanted a new website. I knew I wanted new uniforms, but all that has to start with a brand and an identity. And I didn't have one yet. I had my own identity, Delaney Spaulding. I am a dentist. I needed my office to have a recognizable brand. So I went to Hinman and I signed up for like 3 different marketing classes. I don't think I went to a single like dental class when I went there, but that's not what I was looking at. I was looking at how to make my business better. And I ended up being in 2 of your classes based on topic, not based on you. And then the second that I heard you talking about all the stuff, I was like, all right, I found my person. This is the person who is saying the things that I want. I was thinking, if I can sell dentistry in my company the way that she can sell my ability to need what she has. No, it's confusing, but like, that's what I want. So from that, I knew that 2022 was the year I was putting money into marketing. But for me, that meant going from a GoDaddy site that I built myself, and I will say it was fine. It wasn't good, but it was fine. Going from a GoDaddy site to saying, I want someone to build my website. I want it to represent who I am. And before you even start on the website, I know the name of my office, but I don't even like my colors. How do I even figure out what color I want? And you need to employ people in order to get you to that point, because I'm a dentist and I know business. I don't know everything that goes into marketing. So the idea of delegating to people that makes sense. So I put all my money into it. I decided that was the time to get on SEO and to get my website built. From that, I was able to do a lot of organic and free stuff. So with us getting our new logo, not free, I painted everything in order to match our new logo. We have a flow from the beginning of the office to the end of the office. We changed all of our paperwork, all of our branding. It looks so much more clean cut when everything matches and is together. And all of our social media, we were able to change in order to represent this new brand, because if you're going to have a brand, you need to be able to distribute it. There's no point in having a brand unless it's recognizable and you're getting it out there. So it doesn't matter, in my opinion, what you're putting out on social media, but it has to have your brand and it has to be authentic to what you are.
Yeah.
So it is worth spending money on marketing. And I think I spent about 200% more on marketing from 2021 to 2022, but that also resulted in increasing my collections over 200,000. So at the end of the day, that is what matters. Your percent change in what you're willing to put that money in. And I poured my money into rebranding and marketing. And this year I'm really targeting a lot more organic stuff. I want to be doing a lot more on social media consistently because it's easy and free and comes natural to some people, doesn't come naturally to me, but I make myself do it. And Google Ads, that's where we're starting our trek. And then I'm just excited to try every different type of marketing strategy out there. I did a little bit of newspaper, a little bit of magazine, but it doesn't feel useful.
And the cool thing is you can kind of come to us and say, hey, what should I expect? And we can actually tell you, well, this is going to be a little bit more costly to bring in a new patient. this is where you want to optimize your dollars first. And then when we cap out on what that can do, that's when you go to the next thing. And that's when you go to the next thing. And so you're kind of climbing that ladder. You did branding, then you did SEO, got that working for you. And now you're going to be engaging in some Google advertising. And all the while, you've got the stuff that we're experts in that we're going to help you and run for you and run with you. And then you've got the things that you're learning how to do on your own, which, you know, there are some things that should be outsourced and there's some things that should be insourced. And when it comes to social media videos and engaging maybe your team or your patients on video, that's something that you're either going to have a knack for it and gravitate towards it and do it or not. But it's not the kind of thing you really can outsource. It's the kind of thing you can
not well.
Not well. It's not the same. If you're building your personal brand, you've got your business brand and you've got your personal brand, and your personal brand is, you might need some coaching, you might need some support or some help to do that, but it's probably not the thing you're going to completely let go of, in a sense. Not today in 2023 with video marketing and all the things that are available to us. But I think you've done a really great job in embracing the things even that you're not comfortable with. And you did that when you went out of network. You did that when you invested in your website and SEO. You've got a tolerance for risk that most dentists don't have, and that really holds them back. What are your opinions on risk taking in business ownership, and what advice would you give to a dentist who's maybe wanting to do things a little bit differently?
I think, yeah, risk assessment is a huge thing, especially I have been in a situation where I am able to take on risks. I think there are people who are naturally more keen to taking them on or naturally stay away from them. I have a very supportive family, a supportive dental family that I'm pretty sure when I bought the practice, my dad said, don't do this, but if you do, we'll be here. And for someone to have that makes you feel like you're able to take more risks. Because at the end of the day, if you have people that are going to be there every step of the way and you know you're not in it alone, even being a solo practice owner, I have a team. I have a full-on team that I rely on in order to make things work. I'm also a woman with a husband who has a job. I think that is such an important thing to also keep in mind. It's not that men can't make big changes, or I say men, anyone who is a sole breadwinner for their family. That's a pressure I've never had to have on my own. And I think that would make me a lot more risk adverse. But my husband's been supportive from day one, saying you're unhappy with whatever's going on in your life, make yourself happy. And for me, making myself happy has also made us extremely lucrative when it comes to my choices. So sometimes you need to have the freedom and ability to make really risky choices that can pay off really, really well. They can crash and burn, but I think that's person dependent. And if you're the type of person who feels like you shouldn't be taking the risk and you push yourself anyway, you need to surround yourself with a team that can support you. Because if you're making bad decisions, you need someone in your corner that's going to tell you this is not a good idea. And I had people telling me this isn't a great idea, but like I like what you're doing, which is helpful.
What would you have, if you could go back in time to your acquisition of the practice, what is some advice you would have given to yourself at that time?
It's like, I like my life now. So what would I have changed? I definitely would have learned more about what it would mean to my patients to go out of network. And I would have just done a little bit more research about how to correctly inform patients of that. It's something that I think that's the only thing that feels like it's talked about on dental Facebook groups is how do I tell my patients? And that's something that I didn't think much of. And ultimately it didn't matter much because like I said, they didn't know me. But looking back, I could have sold it in such a positive spin. And it's water under the bridge now. It doesn't matter, but it's kind of like,
I want to make that video so bad. I saw someone post a video where she was explaining to her patients that she was going out of network, but it wasn't good. Okay.
Okay.
So probably wasn't. It wasn't good. But everyone in the
I've seen like 3 or 4 videos, and most of them have given me pause, at least at some point, because it's hard. It's hard to come up with exactly the right thing to say.
It's not hard for me as a writer and a marketer. I'm like, this is so easy. That's why I want to do a sample video to show people.
We should do that.
We should do that. One of the things that I've seen wrong in what people are putting out and everyone else is applauding is they have the somber music, right? They start with like really somber music. And they act like they're announcing that they have a terminal illness to their community. So they start with this very serious tone, and then they talk about how they've made this decision and why, and they justify. It's horrible from a marketing perspective. What you want to do is present it as great news.
Yes.
And you want to present it with excitement. Guess what? We are not going to have any limitations set on us by outside financial institutions. We're going to be able to work with you one-on-one. We're going to be able to spend more time with you. We're going to be able to get to the root of your oral health care problems without worrying about what insurance has to say about it. And if you do have dental benefits, we will help you maximize those benefits. So you can still come to us as an out-of-network provider, but just know we're going to have more time with you, and we're not going to be limited the way that we've been limited in the past. Happy music, okay? Not like someone's dying, okay? Sales is a transfer of emotion, and we're transferring the wrong emotion. We're transferring fear. And that's what I've seen in a lot of these videos, is a transfer of the emotion of fear, and it's not productive. So I hope anyone watching this, if you're thinking about going out of network, it's not a bad thing. Don't present it like that.
And it's weird because they are presenting and transferring fear, but it's different types of fear, because the dentist or the owner or the office manager, whoever is relaying this message, has this fear of, we are going to lose patients. The people you're telling it to don't care if you lose patients. They care that things might be more expensive for them. So if you just completely separate those two things, you don't really address either of them. And what I think is also super important, because you said like kind of any market can go out of network or fee for service. At the end of the day, you do have to change some things. You cannot be a hole in the wall introvert with an office that is, it's like you have to be something people really want to go to, because that's what you're selling. You're marketing yourself and you're marketing your practice. So you can't drop all insurance and then change nothing about your practice. I think that would be a very interesting thing for people to have in their mind. Or they might think, oh, I'm just going to make more money. And it's like, no, you're going to spend that money in other ways. But it's not going to be ways that are dictated by someone just saying, you no longer allowed to collect this fee.
Exactly. It's an interesting dynamic, because there are some practices who bring a lot of value to the table. They have the latest and greatest technology. They go to CE courses every weekend, pretty much. I mean, they love dentistry, but they do no marketing. They do no communication. And so the average patient doesn't even know that they're high tech, because their website looks like it was built in somebody's garage 15 years ago. And
everything is marketing. I've walked into a doctor's office before, saw the paper charts behind the front desk, and left. Didn't check in. It's one of those things where it's such a subtle, small thing, but patients see everything. Everything is marketing. Even saying, by the way, we're paperless. Or if you have papers, sell it. Say, this is the most beautiful thing in our office, and we've decorated it. Look, like everything can be spun in a positive way, but you just have to understand how everything is like taken in as marketing from patients.
Another brilliant statement there from you, Dr. Spaulding. Everything can be spun in a positive way. Most things can be spun in a positive way within your practice, within your business. And it's how you present it, and it's also how your team presents it. Have you given them what they need to present it in a positive way, and so that you can be confident in how they're presenting things? If not, that might be something to look at as well.
And
So,
some things are fixable and some things aren't. And sometimes you can have team members that you love, you make this change to go out of network, and they're just not jiving with whatever you are trying to represent yourself as, and they will burn the office from the inside out. So having the right team members in place matters so much when you're making changes that are going to benefit the office, they're going to benefit the patients, they're going to benefit your employees. But it's very hard for someone to have a big picture mindset when they aren't the big picture person, if they feel like a cog in a wheel, and you just don't need that.
you're so wise. I am not just trying to flatter you. You're so wise. Some people are in business 20 years before they realize, oh, having the same team for 20 years might not have actually been serving me well. It might not actually be something to brag about. It may mean that you're tolerating people stealing from you, people lying to you, people not showing up, people not having a positive, good attitude.
Or not progressing in their life. I don't want the same assistant for 20 years. That would make me feel as though I'm not helping them progress in their life. And yeah, I don't know if that's a very uncommon mindset, but especially in Alabama, assistants have a path to become a hygienist. Every single person who is an assistant in Alabama typically goes down that path. So yes, if you end up with an assistant for longer than 3 or 4 years, you're doing something wrong, because you're not trying to push them.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with if someone really loves the position they're in and they love what they're doing, but I would be focused on their growth within that position, because there's always an opportunity to learn more and provide more value within any position. So that doesn't bother me so much. But I do want to make sure that person is always growing and evolving and has that opportunity. Yeah. I want to reflect on that really quick. A lot of people throw around the word culture as if it reflects something like how long your lunch break is, or what kind of benefits you have, or what kind of Christmas party you throw. That's what they think of when they think of culture. I've come to this conclusion, 13, I don't know how many years in business I've been now, 13 years in business ownership. I've come to, it's 14. Oh my gosh, we're going on 14, I'm getting old. 14 years in business. And I'm coming to the point where I'm realizing culture is people. It is what people you allow. And if one person on that team does not embrace a positive demeanor, it brings down your whole cultural score.
It does.
And that's one of the things I see in dentistry a lot, is the inability to let a wrong fit go. And they don't realize they're being held back by that inability. So
yeah, I've had the opportunity to find people other jobs, because even that can be spun in a different way. I haven't fired anyone yet, but I have found them a different job, not in my company.
You've allowed them to move on to something that they can be more passionate about, more positive about.
Or maintain their same demeanor, just not where I am doing business.
Just not in my space. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I love that. So thank you so much for being here, Dr. Spaulding.
Thank you for having me.
And for those of you following along, join our Facebook group, Dentistry is Growing with Grace. Feel free to set up a marketing planning session with me. I will always make it my mission to bring value to you in that conversation. You can do that by visiting our website, identitydental.com. And if you have an interesting topic you'd like to bring to the podcast, reach out. I'd love to hear it. Thanks again, Dr. Spaulding, and to everyone else, we will see you next time.
Thank you.